first Post-Capital Market Committee press conference for 2017 was hosted today by the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Mr. Muniru Guazo. It was an opportunity to share with capital market correspondents the key issues discussed at the first CMC meeting.
Last year, we introduced the direct cash settlement. Initially, we introduced it to be voluntary. But when we saw some of the recent events in the capital market community came together and said the best way to do it is to make it mandatory so that everybody will be inside the net. It's only if you don't want to key into it, then you can now opt out. The CMC set up a committee, and the committee has done a very robust work. We have now agreed that by September 1st this year, direct cash settlement will now be mandatory for every investor, meaning that any investor in the capital market would be key into the DCS, unless that investor now decides to opt out. So DCS would commence fully on a mandatory basis by the 1st of September 2017. We also, in order to ensure that operators are fit, recently introduced a risk-based supervision in collaboration with the key operators, where we'll be visiting all the registered capital market operators and on a regular basis be assessing their level of risk that they take, which will determine the level of capital they should have. So if your level of risk is very high, SEC will recommend that you need to jack up your capital so that you won't be risk to the market while operating. And what we did was to now move our inspectorate division from Abuja to Lagos for efficiency and for effectiveness. You recall that we have also been pursuing the financial literacy campaign. I think it's very important for Nigerians to know the essence of investing in the financial market. We did a roadshow last year, but this time around, we are going to make it more robust, getting other key stakeholders, because it's not just financial literacy is not only limited to the capital market. People need to know what they need to do in terms of payment of their taxes, pension, and so other things. So we're lucky to have the support and the partnership of other regulators in the Nigerian financial system. FRS, Debt Management Office, NICOM, CBN, and Pension. They have all joined into the financial literacy. And very soon we're going to roll out the roadmap for the financial literacy campaign. And our objective in the next couple of years is to see that the studies of capital market is inculcated both at primary school level and at secondary school level. So by the time our children are growing up, they are already cultivating the culture and the knowledge of investing in the Nigerian capital market. The capital market community is very keen on ensuring efficiency in service delivery in the capital market. Our intention is to see that companies do not have to go to banks to look for funding, particularly for medium to long term. So we look at the key areas that we think would encourage issuers to come to the capital market rather than going to the banks. One key issue is the time to market. How long does it take for an issue to come to the market? It's very easy. Within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you can go to a bank once you have all the relevant documents to secure loans. So we have also looked at our transaction process. And as a community, we have agreed that within a period of 3 weeks, a transaction should be completed. Each key party in the transaction has committed to do its own part and also commit within a particular period of time. Such transaction will be completed. So for instance, SEC has committed that within 5 working days, once applications are filed, that application will be treated and be dispatched. We also inform the operators that the greater job is actually on them, because if they file documents that are incomplete, there's no way SEC would finish its review and revert back to them within 5 working days. So they have to also do their own part. And we also say any application that is filed with us that is incomplete, SEC would no more be attending to those applications. So issuing houses and operators must sit down and do their job very well. We are also going to come up with a circular that within a period of 6 months, each and every market operator must have a registered sponsored individual as provided by the rules, such that any operator that has less than that number, that operator would not be eligible to operate in the capital market. You will recall that last year we gave a directive that by June 30th, there will be no issuance of dividend warrants. We still stand by that. By June this year, dividend warrant would no more be issued, and that is why our campaign on e-dividend is very key. The issue of multiple accounts in the Nigerian capital market. You have an investor bearing Munir Gorzo, Munir Halliru Gorzo, Munir Halliru, same person, but 3 different names, isn't it? And we all know that multiple application is illegal. You cannot apply more than once, unless it's a supplementary allotment. But we have noticed that a lot of people have applied in different names. We've also noticed that people also apply completely with names that do not even resemble them. So you have someone who has applied as Munir Gorzo. The same person will now apply as Joe Mekelua. Another person will now apply as Usman Aliyu. And they're completely different individuals bearing different names, which is also illegal. So we set up a committee to look at it, and we took a decision yesterday that for those that have the same name, it's only that there's a particular name in between. So like I said, if you have Munir Gorzo and Munir Halliru Gorzo, it's the same person, isn't it? And can provide identification, can justify that he's actually the bona fide owner of those shares. He's actually the same person. That he should be able to claim his dividend and also claim his shares. But for somebody who decides to buy, apart from his name, using a different person's name, the dividend and the shares will be forfeited. And the dividend and the shares will now go to the Market Development Fund, which is about to be set up. And that Market Development Fund, even though it was pioneered by SEC and the seed capital was provided by SEC, it is not going to be controlled by SEC. The membership of that fund would have representation from SEC, from trade groups, shareholders associations, and SRO as well. So it's a market-wide committee. Let me repeat, the Market Development Fund is not an SEC fund. It's not going to solely be managed by SEC, but SEC in its developmental role has decided to provide the seed capital. So some of these benefits, dividend and shares that would accrue out of this reconciliation will go to the Market Development Fund, which will be used for the benefit of the capital market.
Mr. Guazo speaks further on the first CMC meeting, review of capital market laws, and improving primary market activities in the country.
I think with what we are doing and what the government is doing, I see the capital market doing much better. So for instance, from our own side, we are targeting some of the concerns of the retail investors. Like, in the last 2 years, SEC has been in the vanguard of driving the e-dividend, which allows a retail investor to get his or her dividend electronically paid into his own account. More importantly, it also provides opportunity for the retail investor who has not collected his dividend for the last 5-10 years. Once he registers for the e-dividend, all those accrued dividend will be paid into his own account. Also, you also recall that we are also driving the initiative with respect to the direct cash settlement, which allows an investor who sells his or her shares for those proceeds to be credited directly into his account. So the era of proceeds being credited to the account of the broker and problems arising, in that respect will not be a thing of the past. One of the decisions we took yesterday again is the implementation of the direct cash settlement is now going to be mandatory. So everybody will be inside the net. It's only when you want to opt out that you can opt out. And there are several initiatives targeted at the, at the retail investors. From the institutional side, the PENCON has just released its guidelines last week, allowing PFAs to invest more in capital market instruments. Now, if you look at some of the policies of government, particularly addressing some of the macroeconomic indices, we believe that some of the economic reforms that the government is going through would certainly address some of those concerns, and we anticipate a shift from the government side or the money market side or the government instrument side to more of the capital market side. So for instance, if you look at the policy of government with respect to the FX, now there's been an improvement in terms of the volume and allocation of FX. In the next 1 or 2 years, by the time the refinery that is being driven by the private investor, and I was reading yesterday that another refinery will also be built in the Niger Delta. The 40-45% that the government spent in terms of FX in the importation of petrol will now be saved. The government initiatives in terms of rice production and other agricultural produce, the percentage that the government spent in terms of the importation of rice would also be saved. So we see a situation whereby companies will now have more access to foreign exchange. Equally, now that there's a sanity in the Niger Delta, production has moved from now 150 that we used to have about a year or so, now to an average of 2 million, 2.1 million, would also increase the supply and will strengthen the Naira. We also believe that some of the policies that the government is embarking on would also help in terms of boosting production. And once production is increased, inflation is likely going to go down. And we have seen a gradual decline in the rate of inflation. Interest rate will certainly also go down. And we anticipate there will be a shift from treasury bills, from FGM bonds to corporate bonds, and that would entice the corporate issuers to now come to the capital market, because you can't come to the market when you are not sure that your instrument is going to be invested in. So we think in the next 9 months to 1 year, with the excellent macroeconomic policies that the government is pursuing, we foresee a shift from what we are seeing now, moving to the capital market.
One major takeaway from the press conference is the fact that the current economic plan of the federal government is tapping into the opportunities and potentials of the capital market, which should mark a turning point for the Nigerian capital market ecosystem.